Okay, so let's talk about open houses. First and foremost, this is a great way to start business when you are trying to grow your network of people that don't know you. There's two different ways to do open houses. One way is with great purpose and great planning and effort, right? The other way is to show up and sit in a house, unlock a door and sit in a house and go, oh, nobody came. Like, that's unfortunate. Have I held both of those types of open houses before? Yes. Many agents in their first year of business, it's a way that they go and grow their business, is to consistently hold open houses every single weekend. First year in the business, I held one. Back in the day, it was only on Sundays that we would hold them. And yet I held one every single weekend, rain or shine, holiday or not. So we talked a little bit the other day about open houses and how you get those open houses. It is not necessarily in your best interest to sign on to the private Facebook group and say, hey, who has a house that needs held open this weekend? Because the chances of someone giving you that house that's been on the market for 3 weeks and is overpriced and isn't going to have a great amount of traffic, and yet that listing agent needs to show that they're doing something to market the home is great, right? But that's not in your best interest. The purpose of you doing an open house, and the purpose of open houses, period, is for an agent to get more business, right? And if you're that agent standing in that house, it's okay for you to be selfish and make sure that it's a house that's going to get good traffic. So oftentimes I encourage you to seek out the open houses and to build relationships with the agents, listing agents, and not necessarily to accept that one in Tonganoxie that's been on the market for a while and just needs, marketing activity for the listing agent. When you're selecting what houses you want to hold open, be strategic and purposeful about that as well. Now, some people will farm an area. Does everyone know what farming means? And farming is going to be when you're working in the same area over and over again, and you're consistently showing up there so that you're trying to generate business out of that area. You're trying to farm that business and get business out of that area. So one strategy that many agents will have early on is to continue to hold open houses in the same area. Partly, it helps with your homework and your preparation ahead of time if you're holding something open in a somewhat similar area, and they can kind of stack on top of each other. The other reason is if you've got where people are consistently seeing you show up multiple times, and this is the third weekend they've walked through and seen you in a house at an open house, they're going, okay, he's working. Clearly, he's an agent that's going to hustle. And a lot of times that's what people are looking for in their agent, is somebody that's not afraid to hustle, especially if they're looking for a buyer's agent and they know that this market, you've got to hustle. So what I would recommend, and we talked about how I was going to show you how you can go about looking for those open houses. As a Keller Williams agent, one of the benefits of being a Keller Williams agent is that you can hold open any Keller Williams listing. It doesn't have to be one in your office. It doesn't have to be one of someone that you know. It can be any Keller Williams agent across all of Kansas City. So one way that I would go about setting that up is that you're going to go and look for active and pre-MLS listings. And then remember how we talked about in the bottom here, we could go and add or remove fields by using this button here, this hyperlink here. So if you hadn't already done so, you're going to click that add button, and then you would want to move over listing office ID to the selected field side. Makes sense? So you're going to select it over on this side and click add, and then you can go back. I've already added it, so I don't need to. And the way that you can just have it to where you're setting up yourself to where you're only pulling up Keller Williams offices is if you're going to put in a KW and then a star for that wild card. So KW star is going to bring up any active or pre-MLS listings. Right now there's 448 for you to choose from. Now, in that 448, guys, I probably would recommend that you set up your search. That's going to include our new construction ones, right? And those have open house, those would be ones that typically they're going to have someone sitting on the development, and that may not be the best use of your time. So we might go up here and remove, say, not on under construction, model not for sale, or never occupied. That's going to take us down to 353. Does that make sense? Just under our statuses, we're going to select those so that it's taking out any new construction that may not actually be a good fit. I would recommend that you're going in and you're looking for an area and a price point that you want to work. Okay, so within this too, you might be setting yourself up for an auto email where you're going to put a list price in here so that you want to focus in on a 250, 200 to 400 range, because those houses are going to sell and such. And that's a price point that you feel comfortable in. When you're picking out what price point to hold open, note that you're being strategic there as well. Okay, if we're picking to hold open a $175,000 house in the Roland Park area, likely the buyers and homeowners that come through there are going to be around that 175 price point. When agents are trying to increase their average sales price, that's when they're going to go and they're going to seek out stuff that, like, maybe they're looking to hold things open between $400,000 and $600,000. The gentlemen in my offices that are doing these 2 a weekend are specifically looking in that upper bracket, because you've got to remember you're looking upstream and downstream for who's coming through that open house. You're going to have people that are neighbors that are coming through because they might be a neighbor and their house would sell for that same amount. So if we're holding a house open, that's, let's call it 300,000. There might be a $300,000 listing nearby that's coming through. And if they're moving up, they might be going and purchasing a 450, right? The other thing is sometimes you're holding open a $300,000 house, and who's coming through that as a consumer? It's a buyer that may think they want to buy at $300,000 because they're trying to see what they can get for their money. And then they realize, you know what, we can afford to spend a little bit more. Maybe we actually look closer to that 400 number. So there are chances that you're going to have, some people that are purposely coming through and they'll start at that 300 range and then be buying a little bit above it. So your open house, you're marketing yourself to both sellers and buyers. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you're going to work a certain area, guys, do your normal criteria as a search. Just make sure that you've got in here the KW wildcard or star there, so that you're just pulling up Keller Williams. But let's say that we really want to work the Lenexa area. So I'm going to say Lenexa only. I've got 5 matches. And then you're going to come in and we've only got one that's active. It's been on the market for 27 days. Back in the day when, again, I think when we had a lot of inventory, I was strategic back then. And people didn't always get professional photos. So I was very strategic about what houses I picked. So it was houses that had really good photos. And the same thing applies today, right? Like you want to pick out the ones that have good photos, that it's going to be a area in which it's a 4-bedroom in an area that typically has 3 bedrooms. So you're going to get a good amount of traffic to it. So these are all pre-MLS. This one's been on the market for 27 days. But again, we might give it a shot, because if it's listed at 215 now, possibly, oh, nope, it's been listed at 215 the entire time. So if there was a price reduction, does that make sense, guys? Sometimes that's a time in which you might want to be okay with holding something open that's been on the market for a while. But basically, you've got all the information you need here to reach out to these agents too, even on the pre-MLS side. We can see that it's going to go active in the MLS on the 31st of March. That's probably not a great fit. Any Shawnee office, Overland Park, I'm sorry, the Olathe office, the Lee Summit office, Plaza, Northland, any office. It doesn't have to be a part of the Big Four. Yeah, so no, you're more than welcome. Like this one's coming on this weekend on the 4th. So to get ahead of things, and trust me, there's more than just agents. There's a number of agents that are proactively looking at pre-MLS and calling those agents and say, hey, I see you're going live on the 4th. Would it be okay? And note, they cannot put the open house in until it's live in the MLS. You can't do it. So you're going to have less traffic coming through because it will just come on. And then the open house will be marketed for multiple days prior to. But it's a brand new listing, right? And so you may very well have more traffic of people coming through because it just hit the market.
And when you say call, is that actually better? Because I've been most of the call, but do you think it's better if phone call?
I certainly think both. I think phone call and then follow up with an email. Because to be honest, on the listing agent side of things, you're busy. Like a lot of these people may very well have where they're listing 4 to 5 houses a month. And so I would strongly recommend calling and leaving even a friendly voicemail and saying, hey, and by the way, I just shot you over an email. Typically that activity of calling and following up and trying to set up your open house, I would recommend that you start on no later than Tuesday, starting to make those phone calls. A lot of times people will make phone calls to 2 or 3 agents in hopes of securing one, right? So they might call 2 or 3 on Tuesday, leave best messages, try to get in contact with someone. And then on Wednesday, if they haven't heard back, maybe follow up again and add 2 or 3 more. Because the chances of someone saying, oh no, I'm holding that open myself, or someone from my team or someone else from my office has already captured it is high. Or to be completely honest with you, it's people are busy. Sometimes they don't return your phone call, right? And or don't get back to you. So that is part of the prep work, right? Is identifying the open house and getting it on the, like getting ahead of asking someone, right? And again, if you can do a good job for them, the chances of them reaching out to you proactively in the future and saying, hey, Serena, I've got another house that I'm listing in the Lenox area. I know that's an area that you're trying to work. Would you be interested in holding it open on Saturday? You did such a great job last time. Sometimes too, you want to call and have kind of where either you're flexible to say, when would your homeowner want an open house? But also it is helpful for you to call and say, hey, I was thinking I could hold it open on Saturday from 1 to 3. I mean, I'm flexible, so whatever your sellers want to do is great, but would 1 to 3 work? You're kind of saving yourself another call or phone call back and forth of what time would you want to do it on Saturday? And B, then it's giving them a direct, question and answer, or I'll be willing to do it on Sunday. Sometimes they're going to say, oh, I already have someone holding it open on Saturday, Elizabeth. And then you can say, well, what about Sunday? I'd be happy to hold it open on Sunday. So first weekend on the market, guys, holding it open Saturday or like Sunday, even if it's already been held open on Saturday, is not a bad idea. Okay, any questions there? We talked before, again, you can't put the open house information in until it's live in the MLS. If it is something that's already active, so it's something that goes on the market on Thursday, and then you're holding it open on Saturday, put it on your reminder, add it to your calendar so you know to check in and look at it, but make sure that you're following up and checking to make sure that it's listed as an open house on Thursday, as soon as it hits the MLS. That way it's being marketed on the internet Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before your open house.
All right. I hope there's a question.
You're a listing agent. If you're holding open someone else's listing, you do need to make some kind of a note at the very, and it can be at the bottom. You all know how you do your like Instagram stuff where it's like that, and then at the very bottom, it says listing courtesy of so-and-so of such and such. But yes, it needs to be like pre-MLS if it's not listed yet, though, Serena. Does that make sense? So yes, and if it's pre-MLS, you can say coming soon, I'm holding this open. Does that make sense? But if it's where someone's going to list something on Friday, it's not in the MLS yet, don't start marketing it until it is. Does that make, yeah.
Yep, totally.
Okay.
I was just going to say, pre-MLS, you can go ahead now and type it, it just has to be coming soon.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Another question on that one.
Yeah.
What exactly are all the rules? Just you need approval, written approval, or advertising someone else's listing, or anything else?
So that's a good Randy question. Yeah, that's a good Randy question. I think it's the question is for advertising other people's listings. What do you need for permission? Do not use is the question. I wouldn't recommend using their photos without their permission. So that is definitely where you're not going to go on the MLS and download their photos and then go make a post on it without their permission. A lot of times you're going to give give credit to the listing agent for something. If you're using, this is not a Randy approved or a Randy answer, this is an Elizabeth answer. If you're using the address and such, then you're going to give credit to the listing agent. I have a good number of agents that go through and will take videos. They'll go on tour on Tuesdays, or they will go through and preview houses and take videos or pictures of different things. They never reference the address of the property, and nor do they make it appear as though they're listing it. And at that point, then they don't reference who the listing agent is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're just showing houses in Johnson County or whatever, and you're just putting nice pictures up as marketing.
Like you walked through and are like, oh wow, look at this game room. Like, wow, this is amazing. Like then they're not putting on there that courtesy of so-and-so with so-and-so, right? Because it's just a game room. They're not saying that it's necessarily for sale. We had some agents that were also going around and just taking pictures of houses, period, that weren't even for sale, as a way to generate, as a part of their strategic, a part of their business plan, right? And people would be like, oh my God, how much is that one? And they're like, well, it's not for sale. It's just a cool house.
Is that legal to do?
Well, I mean, you're just sharing a picture of a house, right? Like, I mean, again, this is living in a world of like beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission, right? A little bit. But yeah, I don't. And it works because they would oftentimes get where people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. When is it for sale? And they get the DMs, and that would be a way that they're driving people to contact them through social media. Okay. So obviously, if I was you and you're working and you're trying to stay within an area, you could go in and create multiple auto email searches for yourself. So here you're going to, once you've got this one created, we're going to go to this save button at the bottom left and click on the new auto email. And we're going to set up an auto email in which you would put your own contact info in here. And then open houses, the next open houses. And that way you're getting notified ASAP as soon as something goes in. Then it gets really creepy when agents are like, wow, you're really watching the market. And I would recommend setting those up for yourself so that you're getting notified in addition to you going out and proactively trying to do a search and find them, okay? The way, I wanna show you real quick, the way that you check to make sure that something's listed, it should syndicate through to realtor.com and Zillow as well. So you could go on there and check. But otherwise, we looked at this the other day, you're gonna come under the search tab, click more, and then scroll down to open house. And under open house, we're going to select the date of the open house that you're going to hold open. So on the 5th. And then I would unselect that property. And at that point, you could put in the actual street address to make sure that they've actually set it up for the open house that you're holding up. So you can, again, use the same criteria if you'd like. But that would be a where you're going to go check to make sure the listing agent has done it. And then if they haven't, it's just, I mean, they may be having a really crazy fun day getting a house on the market and all of the other things that's going on. So again, it would just be a friendly reminder of, hey, congratulations on it going live. I'm still planning on holding it open Saturday, 1 to 3. Can you, I just didn't see that it was listed yet in the MLS. Do you mind popping in and doing that? Or is there anything I can do to help with that? There's nothing worse than going to your open house on Saturday and traffic not being very strong, and every person that walks through is somebody that came off of a pointer sign, and then you realizing it was never actually entered on the internet as an open house. Like if you're going to go through the effort and work to do an open house, you want to make sure that it's getting marketed. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about prepping for that open house. Again, we can do open houses where we just go and plop down, open the door, put an open writer in the sign, and plop down and hope, fingers crossed, magically people come through. And yet there's ways that you can take it to different levels of how aggressively you want to do that open house. One thing that I would recommend is putting out open house pointer signs. You can get those through the market center. You can also sometimes ask to borrow them from the agent that you're holding the house open for. As someone, if you're going to make this a marketing strategy or a strategy for lead generation for yourself, go ahead and invest in some open house pointers of your own. I know in the plaza, we specifically designed them so that you could put the hours of the open house on the pointer sign. So you could say Saturday 1 to 3, allowing you to put that pointer sign out on Friday so that you're gathering traffic all Friday afternoon, Saturday morning until your open house. I know that sounds cheesy, and yet people coming home from work will be like, oh, I can make that open house 1 to 3. The market center is able to provide those to you, and you can purchase them from the market center. I'm not sure here, the front desk here in Overland Park, and then Anessa on the plaza would be able to assist you with getting those too. I know on the plaza they're $9 a pointer sign, but with being able to write that address on that time on there too. Pointer signs are no joke. They take time to put out. It's a fun little game, especially depending on what time of year it is. Right now we have frozen ground. And so getting some of them, they don't have the strongest metal stakes to go down into the ground, but it is something to plan for. That's one of the nice things about being able to put it out on a Friday. If you've got an open house on Saturday, is that you're not running around prior to your open house trying to get the pointer signs in the ground and then showing up late to your open house. It's just helping spread that out. You're not only getting more exposure and getting a longer time, but you're also making it to where you're not running around doing it that day of. Day of, if you are doing it, I would allow for yourself no less than 45 minutes prior to to your open house to be arriving and putting open house pointers in the ground so that you can get to the house, unlock, turn lights on, and be prepared for a guest. I know many times agents are very optimistic about how long it takes to do something. And there have been many times where you're rushing, you've got 3 cars waiting for you. And it's so frustrating that there's 3 opportunities for you to have gotten business that now you're flustered and you're trying to come in with your bag and get the front door unlocked, and you're losing, an opportunity because you just were kind of behind getting things ready. One last thing on open house pointers, depending on what part of town you're in, putting those in what they call the fairway or boulevard, which is between the sidewalk and the street. You do want to be aware of what part of town you're in and what they allow. You also want to account for the fact that you may go and make an investment in 10 open house pointers. And I think the more the better. There are some agents that put out 15 to 20 open house pointers. And I would recommend no less than 7. That you may make an investment in 10, you may put 10 out. When you go to pick them up, you may only have 8 because people do pull them out of yards. People do take them. There's times before where it's unfortunate, and it's not in our culture at Keller Williams, but agents have, just because out of spite, will pull other people's pointer signs. If you ever want to get a custom pointer sign for you with your branding on it, that too is a strategy. One of the times I went to Mega Camp, an agent said that they went and invested in open house pointers with their branding on it. And on Saturday morning, you better believe they had those 20 to 30 pointer signs starting at busy intersections, so by the grocery store. And they're directing people to their open house. Their open house may be nowhere near the grocery store. And yet the point of it is brand recognition. So they're going, oh my goodness, East 80 Real Estate's doing an open house again. She must really know this area. I saw her signs last week. And they may never actually ever make it to your open house, but it's a way to get brand recognition there. So if you've got branded pointer signs, the more you put out and being strategic about where you put them out is important. On your pointer sign, I oftentimes, and especially whenever I would leverage it out and have someone else do it, whether it be a significant other or an assistant, printing out the map and then doing X's so that somebody else could go put them out for me, and planning it out ahead of time is so much better than just showing up that day and going, okay, where am I going to put them? You do want to start with some main intersections, and you do need to guide them back if it's back into a neighborhood to the house. Some people will put balloons on their pointer signs to help draw attention, or streamers. I used Christmas garland when I first started because I think it gave people the impression that yeah, she's crazy. Let's work with her. So you're welcome to decorate them however you'd like. Back in the day when I couldn't afford, because I was new, I got contact paper and I added my own contact information to the standard office pointer signs because it was cheaper than going to Miriam Signs. Would be happy to make you some. And you can order those, I think $15 a piece for a custom one. Yeah, Miriam Signs is a good resource for that. Okay, so other ways that you can prepare as far as marketing for that open house. Oftentimes agents will create a flyer and then they're going to do anywhere from 20 plus doors surrounding the house. So whether it's 5 up the street, 5 down across the street, 5 down the rest of the way that street, and 5 this way, or they go and put a flyer on the 3 blocks surrounding the house, welcoming and letting the neighbors know that you're going to be holding the house open and then they're welcome to join. Sometimes people will tape that to the front door, and that's all the more the level they take it to. Other agents that are really bound and determined to try to drive business and opportunity to that open house will actually knock on the door and say, oh, hello, I just want to let you know I'm so-and-so with Keller Williams, and I might be holding open 123 Main, brand new listing. It's a great home. It's not super, modern, like updated and such, but I don't know if you'd want to come walk through. If you knew anybody, you could pick your own neighbors, or if you knew anyone that was looking in the area. I kid you not, there's a number of people that will come if they're personally invited and made notified of that, right? So that's one way to continue to drive traffic. There's times too where they say, oh my gosh, I've got a soccer game tomorrow. We can't come tomorrow, but we've been thinking about, we'd love to see what that house looks like. I've always wondered what it looks like on the inside, or we've been considering selling. That's an opportunity for you to say, well, I'd be more than happy what time's the soccer game over? Be more than happy to show you outside of the open house. I can make an appointment. I can show, I can preview it with you any other time, right? But it's an opportunity and a piece of value that you're offering to those neighbors to try to increase your opportunity. Does that make sense? Another way in which you can use be preparing for. So do you see how like open houses is more, it can be more than just showing up the day of? And the more preparation you do, the better chances you have of getting, converting people that walk through the door. So if you're new in the business or even when you're not new in the business, oftentimes I would recommend going and previewing other houses in the area. I then would take that agent thumbnail version of it or a printout. You know, I like my printouts, but then I would have it in the open house with me so that when somebody came in and goes, gosh, we were really hoping for something with an updated kitchen, that then I could say, oh, have you seen the one 2 blocks over on 67th Street? It's got a brand new kitchen. It came on the market 2 days. It's not open today, but it came on the market 2 days ago, or it is open today. Here's my card. If you want to give it to the listing agent or the agent that's holding it open when you come there, I'd be happy to, but that's a great house, right? And a lot of times you're holding that information hostage. So you're not giving them the printout with everything, but you might be pointing them in that direction and letting them know that you know the area.
What if that house was listed by? You can't do that if it's another realtor company, right?
Well, I think that that's part of your preparation is that you are aware of what else is open around you. If you do that ahead of time and you do your research and you've gone and previewed some of these other properties so that you know that this one's priced appropriately, or yeah, these are pretty standard sized bedrooms for this area. The question was if it's another brokerage that's holding that house open, whether you tell them about it or not, they're probably got it on their list. If it's in the same price point, the same area, they probably have it on their list. But that too, Serena, is why I was saying if you have business cards, to give them your business card and say, hey, I know when you go to these open houses, the agents just hound you. If you'd like, you're more than welcome to give them my business card so that they will let you just look through the property. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to follow up and get more information. So that might be a way, right? And if they don't know about it, then how grateful are they? We're like, oh, I guess we missed that one. Huh? Well, it's listed at 310. And maybe they're only searching up to 300 and that's why they've missed it, right? But it's a way to give you confidence too, that when you're standing in the house, you've got something to talk to the agent or the buyers that come in, talk to the buyers about. The other thing is if you know that that house is not open, or maybe it's in a show for backup status and it's vacant, you're also able to say, well, did you see it went under contract really, really quick, but if you guys are serious, if you want to get a taste for the market, I'm happy to show it to you. I know it's not open today because it accepted a contract, but they are still taking showings for backup contracts. And not that you'd want to write a backup contract, but I'd be more than happy to show you. My opens till 3. It takes me about 15 minutes to pick my signs up. Would you want me to meet you over there at 3:15? And I kid you not, people will be like, oh yeah, no, that would work. Right. And it's a way that you're going above and beyond to show that you're thinking outside the box and willing to. And you would be surprised at how many times people would. I mean, the number of showings I had were where I'm showing a house because I knew it was vacant. I knew I could get into it quickly. And that was a way in which to help. Whether it's, one that's under contract already or it happens to be one that's been on the market for forever, but they did do a price reduction and they started too high, knowing those things ahead of time and having those carrots that you can say, hey, it's not open today, but I'm happy to go show you. It takes me 15 minutes to pick up my signs. I can meet you there. Oh, no, you have a birthday party you're going to? Okay, great. Well, I could show you just tomorrow. Does Sunday work for you? I'd be more than happy to show you tomorrow at 10 a.m. I've got 10 to 1 kind of open on my calendar. Are there any other homes that you'd want to look at? I've got the ability to open any door for you and assist you with evaluating any of the other homes, right? So you are kind of helping through building a relationship with them. Does that make sense? Okay, so that oftentimes was homework that you're doing prior to now the day of open. So do you see too how it would be helpful to be kind of somewhat working in the same area? Because it greatly reduces the amount of previewing and that stuff you have to do if you're kind of trying to consistently work somewhat in the same area. It also helps build your confidence tremendously when you feel like you know a little bit more about the area. And because people will say, oh, did you see the yellow house that was on the market? And if you're like, oh, what? No, I don't know, kind of a thing, it makes you not look as credible. Other piece is I would highly recommend that you review the seller's disclosure and talk to the listing agent prior to your open house and ask any questions about where the sellers are going, why they're moving, what their timeline is, because people are going to assume that you are the listing agent and you look like a royal idiot if you say, oh, I don't know how the roof. Yeah, I'm not real sure how the roof is. And they don't realize it's not your listing, right? They think, oh, this is how this woman represents her sellers. She has no idea how old the roof is or anything about her sellers. Like, there's no way we would hire her to sell our house, or we would hire her to help us buy a house and sell our house, kind of a thing. So know that you're constantly being interviewed during that. Yes, Andy.
With open houses, this is a positive, so take the first part. I was getting to know this family. But then I really focused in on knowing everything about the house. I mean, probably especially when they're kind of maintenance provided, early maintenance provided. If you know all that stuff, does this include maintenance providers? Yes. It's amazing how much trouble. And then this may sound like a small thing, and a lot of times this is not done this, but if you're in certain places in still, you find out that's on septic, there's septic, like you're in that house.
Yeah.
You would know. Try to find out what the septic is, other than maybe roads. 'Cause they're not-
Yeah. So yeah, and so Andy's sharing that he was struggling with open houses. He wasn't making a whole lot of headway, but when he really learned the house, it gave him a lot of credibility and confidence. Let's be honest, and confidence, right? As a, no, I really do know this house, but note that they are looking at you. Part of you going ahead of time too is if you're holding someone else's house open, it might be a little bit of that tidying up. And or if you're going to put out feature cards that you've made for the property or flyers that you've made for the property, that would be something that you're, again, they think you are the listing agent. So it's okay for you to make your own disclosure packet and your own flyer with your information on it about the property. Does that make sense?
About wanting to know about the people that live in that house currently. The only person you get that from is their listing agent, correct? So that's okay to ask them, and they'll give you that information.
Yep. Yeah, they've already found another house, or they are interested in closing on March 17th and giving, they'd like to hold possession, kind of a thing. A lot of times too, if they tell you that they've already got offers on the property, make sure that they're okay with you disclosing that. We did have an issue recently in which the agent holding open the house didn't realize that that was a big deal for them to be disclosing to people. And one of the buyers that came through then said, well, we aren't going to make an offer because we already know there's other offers on the property. And it came back through the listing agent to the agent holding it. And they're like, well, I didn't realize you didn't want me to tell people. So if they are telling you that there's offers on the property, make sure, is it okay for me to disclose that to others? Because as a listing agent, you have to have your seller's permission to disclose that there's multiple offers on the property.
Giving daughters on speed. It's good, as long as you put it, it's good to have all that information, give them, after you give them a whole bunch of useful information. I'm not the listing agent. You want-
Right. Just to be clear, I'm helping the listing agent out today. I'm not actually the listing agent. So if you did have interest in this property, I'd be happy to help.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna ask that, because there have been times where there is a question, I may know a lot, but they come up with a question I don't know, and I can say, I'm not the listing agent, I'm helping the listing agent out, but I can find out. Let me find out right now.
And let me get your name and number. So I'd be happy to text you with that later. The same thing with the seller's disclosure. You're going to have a copy there because we're not depending on the listing agent to have it in the house. You're going to have a copy. It's going to be, again, your copy that you're not going to give to anyone. Oh, did you want a copy of this person that came through? What's your email address? What's your phone number? I'd be happy to send it over to you.
When or if, at what point do you ask them, are you currently working?
Yeah, that's a great segue. So thank you for that. Oftentimes what I would recommend, so when you've got people coming into the property, agents do this a little differently. Some agents will have a sign-in sheet and they're directing everyone to the sign-in sheet for safety reasons and such. The homeowners do ask that we have everybody sign in, and it's going to have name, phone number, email address on it. Part of the time you've got where people's handwriting is really, is not legible, partly because they don't really want you to have their name, phone number, email address. Partly because people have bad handwriting. You can't tell, is that a 7? Is that a 1? Is that a P? What is that? Is that a D? Kind of a thing. And that's frustrating for people. So some people have them right away. I learned from an amazing agent who was just a real bulldog. What she often would say is upon someone entering the house, you're going to say, oh, thanks so much for stopping by. Help me understand. Did you see it from a pointer or did you see the home online? And the reason that you're asking that is a pointer sign is somebody that's just a looky-loo maybe that was driving by, or they're driving by going to an open house that was in a completely different price point. And so, oh, you saw pointer signs. Well, that gives me a little bit of an idea that you're maybe not as serious as the person that walks through the door and says, oh no, we saw it online. So they've done the research. They likely have a list of addresses that they're going to go to today, right? So that's one way that you're kind of deciphering who is this person. Oftentimes, if they say, I saw it online, I will just read through the stats. Okay, great. So you know it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage. We do have a finished basement downstairs. It's listed at $350. Feel free to look around. Let me know if you've got any questions. Okay, that was that intro, and I like, there you go, right? Because they typically are nodding or they're like, okay, right? But they've already seen it online. If it was somebody with a pointer sign, I'm going to go through the same stats. Awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about the house. 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage, listed at $350. Finished basement listed at $350. I then immediately would go into, is $350 kind of, is that like on the, is that kind of what we're looking at, or is it on the higher side or the lower side of what you're kind of thinking? We always want to give them options of how to respond, right? Because if their eyes get big and they're like, oh, $350, like we were kind of looking more in the like $275 range, right? And by saying, is that kind of on the high side or on the lower side, or is that about what you were looking at? Gives them the ability to go, oh man, like we were thinking more $275. Or they may very well say, oh, well, our budget's more up to like $450, $500. So, and it's giving you the ability to see, are these really buyers for this property? The $275 people, not buyers for this property. If you're prepared, awesome. Have you seen the one over 2 streets over that came on the market last week, or that's been on the market 27 days? They did just drop the price. I still think it's a little overpriced. I walked through it on Thursday and I think it's still a bit overpriced, but that's where your homework comes into play, right? Because you're trying to help place them. But it also gives you ability for you to understand, like, if they're like, we've been looking for a while, kind of. So do you see how you're kind of at that initial, like, I want to see who the players are. So both of those people, that's how I respond to those 2 answers. It's kind of like and then after that, they, okay, go ahead and take a look around. I oftentimes would let them start walking. And then I'd be like, how long have you guys been looking, right? Like there's other questions you run through. Have you guys been looking very long, or have you just get started? We're giving them choices again. Yeah, we've been looking for, last year or so. I mean, if the right house came along, we'd buy. Awesome. So you like to go look at houses. You've been looking for a year? Like, come on. Or we're just getting started. Yeah, well, we've been looking online and stuff. We're just getting started. Well, you know that's somebody, like most times people look online, and one of their first steps into the process is, let's just go see what a $350,000 house looks like. Let's just go walk through a couple and see, what that looks and feels like. It's like their first little gateway drug into buying a house, right? And those are the times that you're going to flag, like, okay, that not the, I've been looking for over a year if we find the right house. I will tell you too, if you hold houses open consistently in the same area, your looky-loos come to open houses every single weekend, and you're like, hey Bill, hey Sue, how are you? Have a great, yeah, come on in, 3 bed, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage, finished basement, $350, right this way. And to just let them keep walking and not to take up your time. So then if it is, we just got started, oftentimes you're trying to catch them off guard. I use the technique of somewhat trying to catch them off guard. Oh, great, awesome, okay. Well, are you guys working with an agent? Yeah, we are. Oh, okay, who are you working with? And if you say it fast enough, they get caught off guard, to where there's times where they will say, what is her name? And it was Stephanie or Sarah? And you're like, no, you really aren't working with an agent. Other times they're going to say, yes, I'm working with Kalina Schumacher. Oh, Kalina, I know Kalina. Like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Like, that's great. Thanks so much. What I'm doing again, you're not my person. Like, go look through the house. Like, I'm going to answer your questions, be kind to you, but I want to make myself prepared and ready for the person that comes in that is not represented. Does that make sense? We're trying to identify who our people are that we want to pay attention to. And I'm not going to be mean to some other agents, whether it's from Keller Williams or not. If they've got questions and they want to ask a gazillion questions about the roof and the blah, 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 you know what? I'm not the listing agent, and I'm going to take notes and I'll pass it along. And then I will have the listing agent reach out to Stacy, your agent, and help get you some answers on that kind of a thing, right? Like, and it's okay for you to do that. But it is important for you to, so that's a good way to figure out. Sometimes people sign-in sheets will say, are you working with an agent? Yes or no, kind of a thing. But I always found it was helpful to somewhat catch them off guard, because then other times people will be like, no, we really are just getting started. Or if they're like, Stephanie, Sarah, I knew that, like, so you're saying there's a chance, like you're not really in with Stephanie or Sarah. So there's a good chance that I could kind of secure this. Guys, at that point, often it's just like when you go shopping. I don't know if you ever go to a store and the person comes up and is like, can I help you with anything? And you're like, no, I just want to look around. And then I look around at the TVs, realize I have no idea what I'm doing. And then I'm like looking for like, okay, now I have a question. So like, let them go at that point, and I often will let them go ahead and go look around the house. And then I kind of will sneak in and play a little bit of, hey, did you guys see that this one has a fenced-in backyard? Is a fenced-in backyard important to you guys? Do you have any four-legged family members that we need a fenced-in backyard for? Or, oh my gosh, the gas stove, the 5-burner gas stove on this house, like this is just absolutely amazing. Would be great for entertaining. I'm using the house as a vehicle by asking about the fenced-in backyard with the dogs. And I'm able to, again, we've talked about this before, and now I know something about them. They've got 2 large, you know, great German Shepherds that they need a backyard for, right? Or allowing them to go upstairs and then come back downstairs. Okay, what did you guys think of the upstairs? What do you guys think of the bedrooms? Oh, the bedrooms are kind of small. Okay, well, how are you going to use your bedrooms? And you're gaining more information so that you can help identify other properties to send them. So that when they walk out, it's not like, oh, I don't really know anything about them. I have nothing to connect with them on. Does that make sense? You're using the house as a vehicle to get more information about what they're looking for and about them. So many times I think buyers too are like, I don't want to buy this house. Like, so you can't help, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about selling that house so much as it is about using it as a way to get more information. I do think that if you, I would highly suggest having some item of value. So not just a flyer on the house, but for those people that, oh no, we are just getting started. You're allowing them to walk through the house. You're keeping yourself available. There are other people in the property that have agents or are your looky-loos that have been looking for forever. And yet, if you've got a piece of value, oftentimes that was where you would stop and say, has anyone talked to you about the process yet? The home buying process? And many times buyers, consumers would say, what do you mean the process? No, like, what are you talking about? Oh, here, let me show you this high level process flow. Let me show you this high level of how the process of buying or buying a home is. So you're gonna get pre-approved, you'll put your offer down. There's this what's called an inspection period, and you can cancel for any reason. And you're walking them through the process with a handout with your contact info on it. The number of times that people would go, that is really helpful. No one else has explained the process to me at all today. All they've wanted to know is how many beds, baths, and what my price point was. So going more into I'm going to help set expectations and educate you through the process oftentimes helped open up the door. Because you've got to understand, more than likely those people are going from anywhere from 3 to 8 open houses that day. So they, by all means, are interviewing everyone, they're watching everyone that's coming through, right? That every house that they're going through, and what are they saying? And if you are, your open houses where you've got some materials, whether it's about the loan process and your preferred lender, that you could say, have you gone through the pre-approval process? Like, I'd highly recommend, you know, working with so-and-so. It's a representation of how thorough of an agent, how much of a professional you are. Does that make sense? And it really does help with conversion if you've got some of that stuff, versus you just standing in the house with maybe a flyer or not, and just asking them to sign in your sign-in sheet. Again, all about your preparation in preparing for it. Okay, if anyone does give you information and you want to set it's a game of speed, like it is with converting any lead. I would time block after your open house to go back and set up those auto emails and get them sent out immediately. So holding in a house open on Saturday and then waiting until Monday to follow up on any leads or create any any auto email searches is not in your best interest. By Monday, they may have met 6 more agents at the open houses on Sunday, and or you are, it's easy to kind of forget who you are. And we all know that when we set up those open house, or I'm sorry, those auto emails, we can see when they're signing in, kind of a thing. Oh, immediately. Like it was, yes, like I would do same day. Like you get done at 3, like time block yourself so that you can go back and you're going back home and you're setting those up immediately so that you're getting out all of the other properties, and a follow-up email of, hey, and if you see anything you'd like, again, I think I mentioned it at the open house. I'm open tomorrow 10 to 1 to show you anything. I'm happy to run you through something.
Are you sending them a buyer agreement signed before you have an email or something? What I do, but I don't know. I assume I can do that later. I just want to get them.
Yes, I am 100% just setting them up on the auto email and praying that they click on it and look at it, right? And it's when you're getting engagement back from them that you're like, okay, this is a good lead, right? I think there's a lot of times that we're like, oh, I got a names and emails and I picked up like 3 leads for my open house. Well, none of them are communicating back with you, right? Like they gave their information to a lot of people and you're not really actually working with that speed piece, right? Because you'd be surprised if you can do it that quickly, how many times that they are signing into stuff and then you're getting a text and giving them permission to contact you via text. So if you see anything you want to see, I know like we held it open on Saturday and I 10 to 1 tomorrow, just shoot me a text. If you see any, like in your auto email or following up with text is totally fine, guys. And if you want, shoot it over to me, I'll get it scheduled. We can go out and take a look. But yes, I'm trying to get my foot in the door because again, if you're using open houses, they're going through a lot of open houses, and your ability to not be pushy, ask good questions, just like we do on that intake form, or we're asking them questions about how, oh, okay, you guys you like that it has a finished basement? Oh yeah, his parents come and stay. When they come and stay with us, they stay for like 3 weeks. So we definitely need some extra space for them, kind of a thing is important. Oh, you work from home. Okay, like good things to know, kind of a thing. So the other bit on open houses is feedback. So you often are the listing agent if you're holding it open for another agent. Your ability to give thorough, detailed feedback to that listing agent is going to increase your ability to hold something else open for them. And what I mean by that, oftentimes you're going to be taking tally of how many people have come through. So people or groups, whatever the sort would be, they're going to want to report back to their sellers. We had 47 people through the open house. Okay, so like I would just keep a tally mark of how many people came through. If anyone did tell me that they had an agent, I oftentimes would try to capture what that agent's name was, right? So when I asked them and they told me the agent's name, I'm writing that down so that I can tell the listing agent, oh, Kalina had someone come through and they stayed. I mean, they were there for 40 minutes. They walked around outside. You might want to follow up with Kalina if they've got interest in the property. As a listing agent, there's nothing that's more helpful than that, where you're like, oh, cool, yes, let me make sure I reach out to her. Because otherwise it's not showing up as a showing, right? Because it came through the open house. Also, any feedback, so positive or negative, that you're getting feedback on the property. Okay, that the bedrooms were too small. They didn't like the slope of the backyard, positive and negative, but you're wanting to get that summary out. So in time blocking to do your follow-up on your leads, you also want to time block to be able to provide feedback to that listing agent as soon as possible. There's nothing worse than letting someone hold your house open and then they go MIA on you and your sellers are saying, how was he open? How was he open? How was he open? And you're like, I can't get a hold of Elizabeth. I'll get back to you, right? That's the quickest and easiest way not to be able to hold one open again. So, and again, when you do a good, thorough job, those agents remember it and they're like, I will let Elizabeth hold open my house anytime she wants because she was really good and thorough and gave me feedback in a timely manner and that.
So you're, just one more. Your standard procedure. How often do that information? Set up an office.
Mhm. You could, yeah, if you have their mailing address, Andy, yeah, you could, or a follow-up with an email, yes.
So, I'll email them, text,
Yep. I mean, and if I'm seeing engagement, like I can't tell you the number of times I would go to get everything in the auto email set up, and then I'm watching the whole rest of the night if they're signing in. And if I see them signing in and looking at stuff, then I am shooting another text to say, hey, or the next morning. Again, it's the level of aggressiveness you want to do. Sometimes I know it makes people uncomfortable, but a lot of times I'd be like, are you ever going to see these people again in your life? So like, don't be afraid to be a little aggressive. How bad do you want, to have that transaction? But yes, you could set up to where there's some agents that put them on auto emails that automatically and text messages that automatically go out so many times to try to convert them. But yes, as quickly as you can get the auto emails out to them or get more properties, or if you told them about that house 2 blocks over, let me send the seller's disclosure and the info on that. You're sending that out that same day, right? Because your engagement is high and you're shooting a text of, hey, I just sent that over. You want to make sure you got it in your email. I want to make sure I got your email correct. So just if you could confirm you received it, that'd be great. So I speed to the lead when you're doing open houses. And you also have where you've got homeowners coming through that might be interested in selling their house, right? So you've got to remember it's not just buyers that you're looking to pick up. You've also got homeowners. And again, one thing we haven't touched on is if the property has already accepted an offer. You've done all of this prep work. They accepted an offer an hour before the open house. And I won't lie, some agents use the listing agents. That open house can freak a buyer out. And you can say, well, if you get me this number, we'll sign off on it before the open house, kind of a thing, right? And you can use it as leverage as a listing agent. Because the buyer is going to say, well, will you cancel the open? Because they're convinced the house is going to sell during the open house, even though most houses don't sell during open houses. So there are times where you're like, gosh darn it, the listing agent will go, well, it went under contract. We accepted an offer Friday night, or we accepted an offer Saturday morning. Some agents will elect to still hold the house open. And some agents will do so and then just not make a big deal out of the fact that it's already under contract. And it's a way to look at it to say that you're still giving them the opportunity to see the property and see what it went for. Again, with permission, you can say they did receive, or they do currently have 17 offers in hand, and explaining a little bit more. That's again, when you're educating people on the process. If you guys want things to do, go make a flyer about what an appraisal waiver is. Go make a flyer about what people are when they're buying it as is and what that means. Because the general community does not understand what that means. They don't understand that that's the aggression that you need to have. And being able to provide them with that, more of that information is helpful. But yes, there are times where people will hold houses open even when it goes under contract. Now, are there weekends that you're like, please go under contract, please go under contract. I really don't want to hold a house open this weekend. I need a day off. I've been working my tail off. Sure. But there are times where you'll hold a house open and it's already accepted an offer. And if someone calls you on it, like I see that the status says show for backup. What does that mean? You're educating on what show for backup means, and to say, I had the time open in my calendar, and I think it's really important that we're still educating the community. The sellers were fine on people still coming through. So I'm glad you're able to see this property prior, even though it's got an offer accepted on it, you can see it's sold with multiple offers. Feel free to take a look around the kind of a thing. So that's not uncommon. All right. Any other questions? And I would say, learn your competition. You can go in just the way we look to make sure an open house is listed. You can go in and see who else is around you on Saturday to know. And it's okay for you all to go through open houses too, and to see on a Saturday or Sunday. I'm in my team leader role. I often would go to open houses to meet agents, but you can see how they present themselves in those open houses too, right? Is there a full spread of stuff, or is it somebody standing there awkwardly in the living room? I guess final thing on safety, do hide your belongings and get rid of the knife block or hide the knife block. I hate talking about safety, and yet it is an important thing. You want to also be standing and set yourself up close to the front door, or some kind of an exit so you've got the ability to get out. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, which it has happened, it's okay for you to step outside and let whoever it is be inside. The other things if it is your own listing, and we often forget it, but hiding, it sounds silly, but your drugs, and I'm not talking illegal, but people do come in and clear out people's medicine cabinets as well. But no, and jewelry, homeowners sometimes don't put their jewelry away, and you're like, I can't be responsible for the fact you left an your AirPods and your iPad out on your, come on. And yet you can go through and be like, hey, I think they forgot their AirPods. I slipped them in the back of the, in the top dresser drawer or something of that sort. But note, safety is important. If you are holding a vacant house open, and you can thank me later, camping chair or table is not a bad thing to bring. Costco has smaller miniature tables that are $40, but having somewhere to put your stuff up by the front door and a place to sit while you're waiting between visitors isn't a bad thing in a vacant house. All right, I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.
You're hoping feel better.
I do too.